The small Nigerian village of Amaka was known for its lush landscapes and tight-knit community. The villagers lived a simple but content life, working on farms or running small businesses. Among them was Amora, a young and beautiful woman who was known for her kind heart and gentle nature. Amora lived with her parents and younger brother in a small hut on the outskirts of the village. She had dreams of a better life, away from the poverty and hardships of the village. Despite her parents' lack of wealth, they were hardworking and instilled in Amora the value of honesty and integrity. However, one fateful day, Amora's actions would set her on a path that would change her life forever. In the midst of a severe drought, food and resources were scarce, and the villagers were struggling to survive. Amora's family was no exception, and they were barely able to make ends meet. Desperate to provide for her family, Amora made a grave mistake. She succumbed to temptation and stole a precious ring from an elderly woman in the village. The ring was said to bring good fortune and luck, and Amora thought it would be the solution to her family's problems. But to her horror, Amora was caught red-handed by the old woman. She was ashamed and filled with guilt. The villagers were outraged, and Amora's once respected reputation was tarnished. Unable to face the consequences of her actions, Amora fled the village in shame, leaving her family and everything she knew behind. Amora traveled for days until she reached a neighboring town, where she eventually found work and earned enough to make a living. Despite the constant thought of the ring and the guilt that ate away at her, Amora managed to build a new life for herself. Years went by, and Amora's hard work paid off. She caught the eye of a wealthy man, who fell in love with her and proposed marriage. Amora, desperate for a chance at a happy life, accepted his proposal and moved with him to his grand estate. However, tragedy struck when her husband suddenly fell ill and passed away, leaving Amora a widow. Devastated and alone once again, Amora had no choice but to continue her journey. She remarried a few years later, only for her second husband to meet the same untimely fate. The pattern repeated itself with every man Amora married. Each time, her husband would die unexpectedly, leaving her heartbroken and alone. As time went by, Amora's beauty began to fade, and she was no longer the young woman she once was. The years of guilt and regret had taken their toll on her. Amidst her sorrow and despair, Amora began to have recurring dreams of the old woman she had stolen the ring from. In her dreams, the woman would appear, pleading with Amora to return the ring and seek her forgiveness. But Amora was too afraid to face her past and continued to push the dreams away. Years went by, and Amora's sorrows and regrets weighed heavily on her once joyful heart. She had lost count of how many husbands she had lost, and she was now a mere shadow of her former self. But deep down, she knew that her current state was a consequence of her past actions. Finally, Amora's conscience could take it no longer. She decided to return to her village and face the consequences of her actions. She made the long and arduous journey, filled with both fear and hope. As she entered the village, she was met with curious eyes and whispers. But to her surprise, the villagers welcomed her back with open arms. They had heard of her tragic story and felt sympathy for the woman who had once been loved and respected by all. Amora made her way to the old woman's hut, her heart pounding in her chest. She returned the ring to the woman, tears streaming down her face as she begged for forgiveness. To her amazement, the old woman smiled and embraced her. The ring, imbued with the old woman's magic, was returned to its rightful owner, breaking the curse that had plagued Amora's life. She returned to the village, and this time, she was welcomed back with joy and celebration. Her honesty and courage had redeemed her, and the villagers forgave her past mistakes. Amora remarried for the last time, and this time, her marriage was blessed with happiness and prosperity. She and her husband had 2 children and lived out their days in peace and contentment. Amora's story became a cautionary tale for the villagers, teaching them the consequences of theft and deceit and the power of confession and forgiveness. From that day on, the villagers of Amaka remembered Amora's story and reminded themselves of the importance of honesty and integrity. And Amora's legacy lived on as a reminder that redemption was always possible, no matter how grave the mistake.